Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not supposed to give you a viral infection. Guess I missed that verse at the wedding. The fluorescent lights in Memorial Hospital's waiting room buzzed like angry wasps, casting everything in that sickly green glow that makes healthy people look terminal. I'd been sitting in those plastic chairs for 3 hours, watching Arden fill out forms with the kind of meticulous attention she usually reserved for performance reviews at her biotech firm. Porter Kellor? A nurse appeared at the registration desk, scanning my insurance card with practiced efficiency. Mid-20s, tired eyes, the kind of world-weary expression that comes from seeing too much human misery on 12-hour shifts. Her name tag read, Tessa. As she handed back my ID, she slipped me a folded piece of paper. Her fingers brushed mine briefly, and she met my eyes with an intensity that made my stomach clench. "Your wife will be called shortly," she said, loud enough for Arden to hear, then quieter. "Third floor, supply corridor, public monitor." I unfolded the note under the desk, 4 words in careful handwriting. "Check the camera, tonight." Arden looked up from her paperwork, that perfect smile she'd practiced in 1,000 corporate meetings. What did she want? "Just confirming our insurance information." I pocketed the note, my mind racing. "Said you'd be called soon." The thing about being married to someone for 8 years is that you develop a 6th sense for their lies. Arden had been lying about something for weeks, late nights at the office, mysterious phone calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room, new clothes that seemed designed to impress someone who wasn't me, and now this infection that had brought us here, something she'd picked up at work, she claimed, a routine exposure that required testing and monitoring. Nothing serious, just a precaution. But nurses don't slip anonymous notes to husbands unless something is seriously wrong. "Mrs. Kellor?" Another nurse appeared, clipboard in hand. "We're ready for you." Arden squeezed my hand as she stood. "This shouldn't take long. Maybe grab some coffee? You look exhausted." I watched her disappear down a corridor marked Authorized Personnel Only, noting how confidently she navigated the hospital layout for someone who claimed this was her first visit. The elevator to the 3rd floor was empty, except for a maintenance worker who nodded politely and got off at the 2nd floor. I found the supply corridor easily enough, a long, sterile hallway lined with locked storage rooms and medical equipment. At the far end, a public security monitor displayed rotating feeds from various hospital sections. I approached the screen, noting the timestamp in the corner. 7:42 p.m. The feeds cycled every 30 seconds. Emergency department, parking garage, main lobby, and then the supply corridor where I now stood. I could see myself on the monitor, a tired-looking man in a wrinkled shirt, holding a phone. I waited. 8 minutes passed. Then, on the next cycle, the supply corridor feed showed 2 figures entering from the opposite end. Even on the grainy security footage, I recognized Arden's purposeful stride, her distinctive red coat. The man beside her wore surgical scrubs and moved with the casual authority of someone who belonged here. They stopped at storage room 3C. The man, tall, dark-haired, probably 40, produced a key card and swiped it. The door opened. They entered together, the man's hand briefly touching the small of Arden's back in a gesture that was anything but professional. I held up my phone and recorded the screen. The timestamp was clear. 7:51 p.m., October 15th. Camera designation SC3, Supply Corridor Level 3. The door number was visible, 3C. They emerged 12 minutes later. Arden's hair was slightly disheveled, her coat buttoned incorrectly. The man checked his watch, said something that made her laugh, and they left in opposite directions. I saved the video to 3 different cloud accounts and texted copies to my personal email. Then I took the elevator back to the 1st floor, bought coffee from a vending machine, and waited for my wife to finish her routine medical consultation. She appeared 30 minutes later, looking flushed and slightly out of breath. "All done," she announced, linking her arm through mine. Dr. Harrow says everything looks normal. Just need to follow up in a week. Dr. Harrow. Now I had a name. That's great news, I said, matching her cheerful tone. I was worried it might be something serious. Oh, you know how these workplace exposures go. Probably nothing, but the company requires documentation for insurance purposes. We walked to the parking garage in comfortable silence. Arden chatted about her day, her upcoming presentation to the board, her plans for the weekend. I made appropriate responses while my mind processed what I'd witnessed. 8 years of marriage. 8 years of thinking I knew this woman. 8 years of believing her lies. The drive home took 20 minutes through suburban streets lined with maple trees dropping their autumn leaves. Our Victorian house sat on a quiet cul-de-sac, surrounded by the kind of neighbors who minded their own business and kept their lawns perfectly manicured. I'm exhausted, Arden said as we pulled into the driveway. I think I'll take a bath and go to bed early. Good idea. I'll make some tea. She disappeared upstairs while I stood in our kitchen, staring at the refrigerator covered with photos from happier times. Our wedding day, vacations to Vermont and Cape Cod, dinner parties with friends who probably knew about her affair before I did. My phone buzzed with a text from Mason, my best friend since college. Beer tonight? You sounded stressed earlier. I typed back, rain check. Need to handle something first. What I needed to handle was downloading Arden's medical records from the hospital's patient portal. She'd given me access months ago when she was too busy to schedule her own appointments. The login still worked. The discharge summary was brief but illuminating. Diagnosis code, Z87.891, personal history of nicotine dependence. Treating physician, Dr. Scott Harrow, internal medicine. Notes, patient reports workplace exposure through close contact with infected colleague. Recommend follow-up testing in 7 to 10 days. Workplace exposure through close contact. The euphemisms doctors used never ceased to amaze me. I opened my laptop and researched Dr. Scott Harrow. 42 years old, graduated from Johns Hopkins, board certified in internal medicine. His hospital bio included a professional headshot that matched the man I'd seen on the security footage. Married to Dr. Patricia Harrow, a pediatrician, 2 children. His office was located in the medical building adjacent to the hospital, the same building where Arden's company rented space for their employee health clinic. I spent the next 2 hours creating a detailed timeline. Arden's late nights had started 6 weeks ago, always on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when Dr. Harrow worked evening shifts at the clinic. Her new clothes, a silk blouse, expensive perfume, lace undergarments I'd never seen, had appeared around the same time. The infection she'd contracted was transmitted. The medical records made that clear, despite the careful language. She'd been having an affair with her doctor, probably in his office or the hospital storage room I'd watched them use tonight. My phone rang. Arden's voice drifted down from upstairs. Can you get that? I'm in the bath. The caller ID showed her work number. I answered on the 4th ring. Kellor residence. Is Arden available? This is Dr. Harrow from the medical clinic. His voice was smooth, confident, with just a hint of concern. The voice of a man accustomed to delivering bad news with professional detachment. She's indisposed at the moment, I said. Can I take a message? Just tell her the follow-up appointment is confirmed for Thursday evening. Same time, same place. I'll make sure she gets the message. Thank you. Have a good evening. The line went quiet. I set the phone down and stared at it for a long moment, processing the casual arrogance in his tone. Same time, same place. Not even trying to maintain the pretense of medical professionalism. Upstairs, water drained from the bathtub. Arden's footsteps moved across the bedroom floor. Soon, she would come downstairs in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel, and ask about the phone call with the innocent curiosity of a faithful wife. But I wouldn't be playing that game anymore. I opened my laptop and began typing a detailed email to my attorney, Marcus Thompson. We'd handled the house purchase together 3 years ago, and he'd mentioned during the closing that he also practiced family law. The subject line read, "Urgent consultation required. Divorce proceedings." I attached the security footage, the medical records, and a timeline of Arden's suspicious behavior. Then I saved the email as a draft. I wasn't ready to send it yet, but having it prepared felt like loading a gun I might need to fire. "Who called?" Arden appeared in the kitchen doorway, wrapped in her terry cloth robe, hair damp from the bath. "Dr. Harrow, confirming your follow-up appointment for Thursday evening." She froze for just a moment, a barely perceptible pause that might have escaped notice if I hadn't been watching for it. "Oh, right, the follow-up. I'd almost forgotten." "Same time, same place," he said. "Yes, that's standard for these workplace exposure cases. Continuity of care, you know." I nodded sympathetically. "Makes sense. You want some tea?" "I was just putting the kettle on." "That would be lovely." We sat at the kitchen table, sharing chamomile tea and discussing mundane domestic topics. Arden mentioned needing to work late tomorrow to prepare for her presentation. I told her about a difficult insurance claim I was investigating, a warehouse fire with suspicious circumstances. "You're so good at seeing through people's lies," she said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "It's one of the things I've always admired about you." The irony was so thick I could have spread it on toast. "It's all about paying attention to details," I replied. "People think they're clever, but they always leave evidence. Phone records, financial transactions, security cameras. The truth has a way of surfacing." She smiled and kissed my forehead before heading upstairs to bed. I sat in the kitchen for another hour, finishing my tea and planning my next move. The thing about revenge is that it requires patience. Rush the process, and you end up with a mess that satisfies no one. But take your time, gather your evidence, and choose your moment carefully. That's when you can truly destroy someone. I had the evidence. Now I needed the perfect moment. Thursday evening couldn't come soon enough. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that makes New England famous. Arden left for work at 7:30, kissing me goodbye with the same routine affection she'd shown for 8 years. Nothing in her manner suggested a woman planning to betray her husband in 48 hours. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner before opening my laptop and accessing her work-issued phone account. Arden had given me the login information months ago when she needed me to forward some files while she was traveling. The password hadn't changed. AK 2015. Her initials, and the year we bought the house. Her text messages painted a clear picture of the affair. Dr. Harrow's contact was listed under SH Clinic, a thin disguise that wouldn't fool anyone looking closely. Their conversation history went back 6 weeks, starting with professional exchanges about employee health screenings and gradually becoming more personal. The most recent messages made my stomach turn. SH Clinic. Looking forward to Thursday. Same arrangement? Arden. Yes. P thinks I'm working late on presentation. SH Clinic. Perfect. I'll make sure the storage room is available. Arden. You're terrible. What if someone sees us? SH Clinic. That's what makes it exciting. I screenshot every message and saved them to an encrypted folder. Then I scrolled through her call logs, noting the pattern of late-night conversations that always ended abruptly when I entered the room. My phone rang. Mason's name appeared on the screen. "You sound like garbage," he said without preamble. "What's going on?" Mason Kelly owned the Blue Lantern Bar on Main Street, a local fixture that doubled as the unofficial information hub of our small town. 20 years as a Boston police detective had given him a keen instinct for trouble that was hard to match. "Just dealing with some personal issues," I said. "Nothing I can't handle." "Right. That's what you said when you were investigating that insurance fraud case and ended up with a broken nose. Want to grab lunch? I'm buying." "Can't today, maybe tomorrow." "Porter, I've known you since college. You're plotting something, don't do anything stupid." The line went quiet. Mason had a talent for reading people that made him dangerous to lie to. I'm not plotting anything, I said finally. Just gathering information. Information about what? My wife's affair with her doctor. Silence stretched between us for 10 seconds. Then Mason sighed heavily. How long have you known? Since yesterday. Caught them on hospital security footage. Jesus. You want me to look into this guy? Run a background check? Already did that. Dr. Scott Harrow, 42, married with kids, clean record, good reputation, probably thinks he's untouchable. They always do? What's your plan? I stared out the window at our perfectly manicured lawn, thinking about 8 years of shared dreams and mutual deception. I'm going to ruin them both. Porter. Not physically. I'm not going to hurt anyone, but I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people they are. That's a dangerous game. You sure you want to go down that road? They made the choice for me when they decided to humiliate me in a hospital storage room. Mason was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of hard-earned wisdom. Okay, but you do this smart. No half measures, no emotional outbursts. If you're going to destroy them, you do it completely, and you make sure they can't retaliate. You understand me? I understand. Good. And Porter? When this is over, you're going to need friends. Don't forget that. After Mason hung up, I spent the morning researching divorce law in Massachusetts. The state had abolished fault-based divorce in 1975, which meant adultery wouldn't affect property division. But it could influence alimony calculations, especially if I could prove Arden had been using marital assets to support her affair. Her credit card statements revealed a pattern of expensive purchases that coincided with her relationship timeline. Lingerie from Victoria's Secret, dinners at restaurants we'd never visited together, a hotel room charge from last month when she claimed to be working late. I printed everything and organized it in a folder labeled Evidence. Then I drafted a second email to my attorney, this one requesting an immediate consultation about asset protection and divorce strategy. But I didn't send it yet. I had a better idea. Arden's work phone contained her corporate email account, complete with access to the company directory. Harrow Biotech employed over 200 people, most of whom knew Arden as the polished HR manager who organized holiday parties and mediated workplace disputes. They were about to learn a different side of her. I composed a new message in her email account, addressed to the company's all-staff distribution list. The subject line read, "Personal update from Porter Kellor." The message was brief and professional. Dear colleagues, I wanted to personally inform you about some recent developments in my life. As many of you know, I've been working closely with Dr. Scott Harrow on employee health initiatives. What you may not know is that our professional relationship has evolved into something more personal. I realize this may come as a surprise, given that both Dr. Harrow and I are married to other people. However, I believe in transparency and wanted you to hear this directly from me rather than through office gossip. Please find attached some documentation of our relationship for your reference. Best regards, Arden Kellor, Human Resources Manager. I attached the security footage from the hospital, the text message screenshots, and a selection of her credit card statements showing the hotel charges. Then, I saved the email as a draft and set a delayed delivery for Thursday evening at 6:01 p.m., exactly when Arden would be meeting Harrow for their weekly rendezvous. The timing was crucial. By the time they finished their encounter and checked their phones, the entire company would know about their affair. Arden's professional reputation would be destroyed, and Harrow's medical practice would face scrutiny from the hospital administration. But that was just the opening move. I spent Tuesday afternoon visiting my bank and consulting with a financial advisor about protecting assets during divorce proceedings. Massachusetts law required equitable distribution of marital property, but there were ways to ensure Arden couldn't claim more than her fair share. Our joint accounts contained roughly $180,000 in savings and investments. I transferred half to a separate account in my name only, documenting the transaction with a notarized statement explaining the reason for the transfer. perfectly legal, and it would prevent Arden from draining our accounts out of spite. Wednesday morning brought rain and the first real chill of autumn. Arden complained about the weather over breakfast, mentioning that she might need to work even later Thursday to finish her presentation. "The board meeting is Friday morning," she said, buttering her toast with mechanical precision. "If this goes well, I might finally get that promotion to director level." "That's wonderful," I said. "You've worked hard for this opportunity." "I have, haven't I? Sometimes I feel like people don't appreciate how much effort goes into managing human resources. It's not just paperwork and policy enforcement. It's about understanding people, knowing what motivates them, what they're willing to sacrifice for success." The unconscious irony in her words was almost beautiful. "What time do you think you'll be home Thursday?" I asked. "Late. Probably not until 9 or 10. You should plan dinner without me. I'll probably grab something with Mason at the bar. Give you space to work." She smiled gratefully. "You're so understanding. I don't know what I did to deserve you." I smiled back and refilled her coffee cup. Just lucky, I guess. Wednesday evening, I called Mason and arranged to meet him at the Blue Lantern Thursday night. The bar would be busy enough to provide cover for what I was planning, but not so crowded that we couldn't talk privately. "You sure about this timing?" Mason asked. "Once you pull that trigger, there's no going back." "I'm sure. They've had 6 weeks to come clean. Thursday night, everyone finds out what kind of people they really are." "Okay, but we do this my way. You sit at the bar, order dinner, act normal. Let the fireworks happen naturally. Don't give anyone reason to think you orchestrated this." "Understood. And Porter, bring tissues. When that email hits, your phone is going to explode with calls from people who want to offer sympathy or gossip. You need to look surprised, not satisfied." Thursday morning dawned clear and cold. Arden spent extra time getting ready, choosing a navy blue dress that I'd never seen before and applying makeup with unusual care. "Big day," she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. "The biggest," I agreed. She kissed me goodbye at 7:30, the same routine gesture that had marked our mornings for 8 years. I watched her drive away, knowing it would be the last normal moment of our marriage. At 5:30 that evening, I drove to the Blue Lantern and ordered a burger and beer. The bar was moderately busy. A few regulars watching baseball, some couples sharing dinner, the usual Thursday night crowd. Mason worked behind the bar with his typical efficiency, occasionally catching my eye and nodding. He'd positioned himself where he could monitor my phone activity without being obvious about it. At exactly 6 p.m., my phone buzzed with a notification. The delayed email had been sent to 247 recipients at Harrow Biotech, including senior management, department heads, and the entire HR staff. I opened my beer and took a sip, waiting for the chaos to begin. It didn't take long. The first call came at 6:07 p.m. Lisa Chen, Arden's closest friend at work, her voice shaking with either shock or excitement. "Porter? Oh my God, Porter, have you seen—" "Seen what?" I kept my voice carefully neutral, aware that Mason was listening from behind the bar. "Arden sent an email to the entire company about her and Dr. Harrow, about their affair." I let the silence stretch for 5 seconds, counting heartbeats. "What are you talking about?" "She sent security footage, text messages, everything. Porter, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "Lisa, slow down. What email? What security footage?" "Check your phone. She copied you on it." I opened Arden's work email account and forwarded the message to my personal address, making sure Lisa could hear the notification sound. "I'm getting it now," I said. "Give me a second to—" I let my voice trail off as I pretended to read the email for the first time. Mason moved closer, polishing glasses with exaggerated casualness. "Jesus," I whispered. "This can't be real. Porter, are you okay? Do you want me to come over?" No, I need to think. This doesn't make sense. Why would she send this to everyone? I don't know. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe she wanted to come clean. My phone buzzed with another call, then another. The notification sounds came faster now, a digital avalanche of missed calls and text messages. "Lisa, I have to go. People are calling." "Porter, wait." I hung up and stared at my phone screen. 17 missed calls in the past 3 minutes. Text messages from co-workers, neighbors, distant relatives who somehow got added to Arden's contact list. Mason appeared at my elbow with a fresh beer. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "No," I said. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't acting. The reality of what I'd done was hitting me like a physical blow. 8 years of marriage ended with a few mouse clicks and a delayed email timer. "Drink this," Mason said, "and turn off your phone. Whatever you need to deal with can wait until tomorrow." But I couldn't turn it off. Not yet. I needed to see how this played out. At 6:15, Arden called. I let it go to voicemail. At 6:16, she called again, and again at 6:17. The fourth call, I answered. "Porter!" Her voice was frantic, barely recognizable. "Porter, something's wrong with my email. Someone hacked my account. They sent something terrible to everyone at work." "I know," I said. "Lisa called me. Arden, what the hell is going on?" "It's not real. Someone faked those messages, that footage. It's some kind of setup." "Set up by who? And why would someone want to—" "I don't know. Maybe a disgruntled employee, or someone trying to sabotage the company. Porter, you have to believe me. I would never—" Her voice broke. In the background, I could hear other voices, urgent and angry. "Where are you?" I asked. "The hospital. I came here to follow up on some paperwork. Porter, Dr. Harrow is here too. Security is asking us questions. They're treating us like criminals. Maybe you should come home. We can figure this out together. I can't leave yet. The hospital administration wants to review the footage. They're talking about suspending Dr. Harrow pending an investigation." Another voice interrupted, male, authoritative. Arden's responses became muffled, as if she'd covered the phone. "Porter, I have to go. Don't believe what people are saying. Please." The line went quiet. Mason refilled my beer without being asked. "How you feeling?" Like I just dropped a nuclear bomb on my own life. Having second thoughts? I considered the question while watching the baseball game on the bar's television. The Red Sox were losing, as usual. "No," I said finally. "She made her choice. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Dr. Harrow. We need to talk. Meet me at the Riverside Motel on Route 9, room 237. Come alone." I showed the message to Mason, who frowned. "That's either very stupid or very dangerous," he said. "Probably both." "I should go." "No, you shouldn't. Let him sweat. You hold all the cards now." But curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see Dr. Scott Harrow up close, wanted to understand what kind of man would risk everything for an affair with a colleague's wife. "If I'm not back in 2 hours, call the police," I told Mason. "Porter, 2 hours. I'll keep my phone on." The Riverside Motel squatted beside Route 9 like a relic from a more optimistic era when interstate travel meant adventure rather than desperation. Half the neon sign had burned out, leaving it to advertise Riv RSIA Mo-El in flickering blue letters. Room 237 was on the second floor, accessible by an external staircase that creaked ominously under my weight. I knocked twice. Dr. Scott Harrow opened the door wearing surgical scrubs and an expression of barely controlled panic. Up close, he was smaller than he'd appeared on the security footage, maybe 5'10", with prematurely gray hair and the soft build of a man who spent his days in examination rooms rather than gyms. "You came," he said, stepping aside to let me enter. The room smelled of industrial disinfectant and stale cigarettes. 2 double beds dominated the space, separated by a nightstand that held a lamp with a crooked shade. Arden sat on the far bed, her navy dress wrinkled, her carefully applied makeup smeared. She looked up when I entered, her eyes red and swollen. "Porter," she whispered. "Thank God you're here." "Don't," I said. Just don't. Dr. Harrow closed the door and turned to face me. We need to discuss this situation rationally, like adults. Rationally? I almost laughed. You want to discuss adultery rationally? It's not what you think. Really? What is it then? He glanced at Arden, who nodded encouragingly. It's a relationship between two consenting adults who found themselves in an impossible situation. Arden's marriage was failing. My marriage was failing? I looked at Arden. Is that the story you told him? She stood up, smoothing her dress with trembling hands. Porter, please, let's not do this here. Where would you prefer? Your office? The hospital storage room? Or maybe we should rent this room by the hour like you've been doing for the past 6 weeks. Dr. Harrow stepped forward, his medical authority reasserting itself. There's no need for hostility. We're all civilized people here. Civilized people don't screw their patients in hospital storage rooms. Arden isn't my patient. She's a colleague. A married colleague. Yes, and that complicates things. But Porter, you have to understand, what Arden and I have is real. It's not some casual affair. I stared at him, processing the casual arrogance in his tone. He actually believed he was the victim here, that love justified betrayal. How long? I asked Arden. Porter, how long have you been lying to me? She sank back onto the bed, her composure finally cracking. 6 weeks. It started 6 weeks ago. The night you claimed to be working late on the Johnson account. Yes. And the infection you picked up at work? Dr. Harrow cleared his throat. That was an unfortunate complication. We were careless, once. Careless enough to require medical treatment. These things happen. We're both adults. We understand the risks. I turned to Arden. Did you ever plan to tell me? I wanted to. I tried so many times. But I didn't know how to explain. Explain what? That you fell in love with someone else? That our marriage meant nothing to you? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made a choice. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 weeks, you chose him over me. Dr. Harrow moved closer, his voice taking on the soothing tone he probably used with terminal patients. Porter, I understand you're hurt, but destroying our careers won't change what's happened. It won't save your marriage. You think this is about saving my marriage? Isn't it? I pulled out my phone and opened the email thread that was still exploding with responses from Arden's co-workers. 43 new messages in the past hour, ranging from expressions of shock to demands for explanation to crude jokes about HR policies. This isn't about saving anything, I said. This is about consequences. Arden stood up again, her voice gaining strength. Porter, we can fix this. I can send a retraction email, claim my account was hacked. We can say the footage was doctored. And the text messages? The hotel receipts? The medical records? We'll figure something out. Scott has connections at the hospital. They'll help us. Dr. Harrow nodded eagerly. The administration values discretion. If we handle this properly, we can minimize the damage. I looked at them both. Two educated, successful people who still believed they could lie their way out of consequences. The arrogance was breathtaking. You don't get it, I said. This isn't about damage control. This is about justice. Justice? Arden's voice rose. You want to destroy my career over a mistake? A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. This is betrayal. Porter, please. I love you. I've always loved you. This thing with Scott, it's complicated, but it doesn't change how I feel about you. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop talking. Every word makes this worse. Dr. Harrow tried a different approach. What do you want? Money? We can discuss compensation for your emotional distress. The offer hung in the air like a bad smell. You want to pay me off? I want to resolve this situation in a way that works for everyone. Here's what works for me. You both face the consequences of your choices. Arden loses her job. You lose your medical privileges. Everyone knows exactly what kind of people you are. That's vindictive, Arden said. That's justice. I walked to the door, then turned back for one final look at my wife of 8 years. The divorce papers will be filed tomorrow. Don't come home tonight. Don't come home ever. Porter, wait. But I was already walking down the creaky stairs, leaving them to figure out their next move. My phone buzzed with another text from Mason. How'd it go? I typed back. Better than expected. They're even worse than I thought. The drive home took 15 minutes through quiet suburban streets. Our house looked the same as always, white Victorian with green shutters, perfectly maintained lawn, the kind of place where normal families lived normal lives. But nothing about my life was normal anymore. I parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, processing what had just happened. In the space of 6 hours, I'd destroyed my wife's career, exposed her affair to hundreds of people, and ended my marriage. And I felt absolutely no regret. My phone rang. Mason's number. You okay? He asked. I'm okay. You sure? You sound different. I considered the question. Did I feel different? Yes. Lighter somehow. As if a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had suddenly been lifted. I feel free, I said. That's the adrenaline talking. Tomorrow you're going to feel like garbage. Maybe. But tonight, I feel like I finally did something right. Mason was quiet for a moment. You want company? I can close early. No, I'm good. I think I want to be alone for a while. Okay. But Porter? This isn't over. They're going to fight back. People like that always do. Let them fight. I've got nothing left to lose. After Mason hung up, I walked through my house now, not our house, and tried to imagine what came next. Divorce proceedings, asset division, the awkward conversations with mutual friends who would feel obligated to choose sides. But for the first time in weeks, I wasn't angry. The rage that had been building since I received that nurse's note had transformed into something colder and more focused. Arden and Dr. Harrow thought this was over, that they could contain the damage and move on with their lives. They were wrong. This was just the beginning. Friday morning brought the kind of crisp October day that makes real estate agents rich and poets insufferable. I woke up alone in my bed for the first time in 8 years, expecting to feel empty or devastated. Instead, I felt remarkably clear-headed. My phone showed 63 missed calls and over 100 text messages. I scrolled through them while drinking coffee that I'd made exactly the way I liked it, strong and black, without the cream and sugar Arden always insisted on. Most of the messages fell into predictable categories. Shocked friends offering support, nosy neighbors fishing for gossip. A few genuine expressions of sympathy from people who'd suspected something was wrong with my marriage, but one message stood out. From Nurse Tessa, the woman who'd slipped me the note. Saw the news about Dr. Harrow. Thought you should know he's done this before. Call me. I dialed her number immediately. Porter? Her voice was cautious, professional. You said he's done this before. Dr. Harrow. This isn't his first affair with a colleague. There was a physical therapist 2 years ago, and before that, a nurse in the cardiac unit. What happened to them? The physical therapist was transferred to another hospital. Officially, it was a promotion. Unofficially, everyone knew she'd been forced out to protect Harrow's reputation. And the nurse? She quit. Moved to California, I think. The hospital administration has a pattern of protecting doctors while sacrificing support staff. I set down my coffee cup, my mind racing. Why didn't anyone report this? Who would we report it to? Harrow has friends in administration. His wife sits on the hospital board. The system protects people like him. Not anymore. What do you mean? I mean this time, everyone knows. He can't hide behind his connections when the evidence is public. Tessa was quiet for a moment. Porter, be careful. Men like Harrow don't go down easily. They have resources, influence. They fight dirty when they're cornered. Let him fight. I've got nothing left to lose. After Tessa hung up, I spent an hour researching Dr. Patricia Harrow, Scott's wife. She was indeed a member of the hospital board, a respected pediatrician with her own practice. Their social media accounts painted a picture of the perfect medical power couple: charity galas, family vacations, professional achievements. She deserved to know what kind of man she'd married. I found her office number and called directly. Dr. Harrow's office. This is Jennifer. I need to speak with Dr. Patricia Harrow. It's regarding her husband. May I ask what this is concerning? It's a personal matter. Tell her it's about Scott and the hospital incident. 5 minutes later, Dr. Patricia Harrow's voice came through the phone. Crisp, intelligent, with the kind of authority that comes from years of making life-and-end decisions. This is Dr. Harrow. You wanted to discuss my husband? My name is Porter Kellor. My wife has been having an affair with your husband for the past 6 weeks. Silence stretched between us. I could hear office sounds in the background, phones ringing, muffled conversations, the normal rhythm of a busy medical practice. I see, she said finally. And you're calling because I thought you should hear it from me, rather than through hospital gossip. That's considerate of you, Mr. Kellor. May I ask how you discovered this affair? I told her about the security footage, the medical records, the text messages. She listened without interruption, asking only occasional clarifying questions. And you've shared this information with others? My wife sent it to her entire company yesterday evening. By accident, she claims. By accident? Dr. Harrow's tone suggested she found this explanation less than convincing. Mr. Kellor, I appreciate your honesty. This conversation has been illuminating. Dr. Harrow, I'm sorry to be the one telling you this. Don't be sorry. Be thorough. If you have documentation of this affair, I'd like copies. For my attorney. Of course. And Mr. Kellor? Thank you. This explains quite a lot about my husband's recent behavior. After she hung up, I forwarded her the security footage and text message screenshots. Then I called my attorney and scheduled an emergency meeting for that afternoon. Marcus Thompson had been practicing family law for 25 years, long enough to develop the weary cynicism of a man who'd seen every possible variation of human betrayal. His office overlooked Boston Harbor, with floor-to-ceiling windows that made visitors feel exposed and vulnerable. Well, he said, after reviewing my evidence, this is certainly comprehensive. Your wife's affair is well documented, and the public nature of the disclosure strengthens your position considerably. What does that mean in practical terms? It means she can't claim the marriage broke down due to irreconcilable differences. The fault is clearly hers, which affects alimony calculations. It also means any attempt to claim you were an absent or negligent husband will be difficult to support. Marcus leaned back in his leather chair, studying me with the calculating gaze of a predator evaluating prey. However, there's something we need to discuss. This email that went to your wife's entire company. How exactly did that happen? She claims her account was hacked. But you know better. I met his gaze steadily. I know my wife isn't technically sophisticated enough to accidentally send an email to 200 people. That's not what I'm asking, Porter. I'm asking if you sent that email. The question hung in the air between us. Marcus's expression remained neutral, professional, but I could see the warning in his eyes. I accessed her work phone to gather evidence of the affair, I said carefully. I documented their communications for divorce proceedings. What happened after that? Well, technology can be unpredictable. Marcus nodded slowly. Technology is indeed unpredictable. Email systems sometimes malfunction, sending messages to unintended recipients. These things happen. They do. Good. Then we understand each other. Now, let's discuss your objectives. Do you want a quick settlement, or do you want to maximize the consequences for your wife's behavior? I want consequences. Consequences cost money, Legal fees, court costs, expert witnesses. A contested divorce can run $50,000 or more. I can afford it. Then we proceed aggressively. I'll file papers Monday morning, requesting full asset disclosure and temporary spousal support denial based on marital misconduct. We'll make this as public and painful as possible. I left Marcus's office feeling like a general who'd just deployed his army. The legal machinery was in motion, and there would be no stopping it now. My phone rang as I reached the parking garage. Arden's number. "Porter, we need to talk." "Talk to my lawyer." "Please, just 5 minutes, I'm at the house." "You're what?" "I'm at our house. I need to get some clothes, some personal items." "Porter, please come home, we can work this out." Against my better judgment, I drove home. Arden's car sat in the driveway and I could see lights on in our bedroom. She'd let herself in with her key, of course. I'd forgotten to change the locks. I found her in the bedroom, packing a suitcase with mechanical efficiency. She'd changed out of yesterday's wrinkled dress into jeans and a sweater, and she'd fixed her makeup, but she looked older somehow. Diminished. "You came," she said without looking up from her packing. "This is still my house. Our house. Everything we built together, Porter. 8 years of marriage. Are you really going to throw that away over a mistake?" "Stop calling it a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. This was a choice you made every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 weeks. She sat heavily on the bed, her shoulders sagging. "You're right. It was a choice. A terrible, selfish choice that I regret every minute of every day." "Since when? Since yesterday when your career exploded? Since this morning when you realized you might lose half our assets in the divorce?" "Since the first time it happened. Porter, I never meant for this to become what it became. Scott was persistent, charming. He made me feel important, valued, things I hadn't felt in a long time. So this is my fault? I didn't make you feel valued enough?" "No!" She stood up quickly, her voice rising. "That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I was weak and stupid, and I made the worst decision of my life. Multiple decisions. Every time you met him, every time you lied to me, every time you came home and pretended to be a faithful wife." Tears started flowing down her cheeks. Real tears, not the calculated display she'd put on at the motel. I know how terrible this is. But Porter, I love you. I've always loved you. What happened with Scott? It wasn't love. It was stupidity and selfishness and a dozen other things, but it wasn't love. Then why didn't you stop? Because I'm an idiot. Because I thought I could have both, the excitement of the affair and the security of our marriage. Because I convinced myself you'd never find out. And if I hadn't found out, how long would this have continued? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. "I don't know," she whispered. "I honestly don't know." The admission hung between us like a physical presence. 8 years of marriage, and she couldn't even promise she would have ended the affair on her own. "Scott wants to leave his wife," she continued. "He's been talking about divorce, starting over together. But Porter, I never wanted that. I never wanted to leave you. You just wanted to betray me indefinitely." "Yes, and I know how horrible that sounds, how selfish and cruel, but yes, that's what I wanted." At least she was finally being honest. "What happens now?" I asked. "I don't know. Scott's been suspended from the hospital pending an investigation. His wife filed for divorce this morning. My boss wants to see me Monday to discuss my future with the company." "Which means you're fired." "Probably. The email went to everyone, Porter. Clients, vendors, board members. The company can't ignore this." "Good." She flinched as if I'd slapped her. "You really want to destroy my life. I want you to face consequences for your choices. There's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you want revenge." "Maybe I do. Maybe after 8 years of faithfulness, I've earned the right to be angry when I discover my wife has been screwing her doctor in hospital storage rooms." "Porter, no. You don't get to make me feel guilty for being hurt. You don't get to play the victim here. She finished packing in silence, filling 2 suitcases with clothes and personal items. I watched from the doorway, noting how she avoided taking anything with sentimental value. No photos, no gifts I'd given her, nothing that represented our shared history. "Where will you go?" I asked as she wheeled the suitcases toward the door. "Scott rented an apartment downtown, temporary, until we figure out what comes next." "So you're moving in with him?" "We don't have anywhere else to go. His wife changed the locks on their house. I can't afford a hotel indefinitely." "How romantic. Starting your new life together as unemployed adulterers." "Porter, please, don't make this uglier than it already is. I'm not making anything ugly. I'm just observing the natural consequences of your choices." She stopped at the front door, turning back to look at me one final time. "I know you hate me right now, and I understand why. But someday, when you're not so angry, I hope you'll remember the good times we had, the love we shared. It was real, Porter. Whatever else happened, what we had was real." "Was it?" "Because right now, I'm not sure what was real and what was just another lie." "It was real," she said softly. "All of it. The good and the bad, the love and the betrayal. It was all real." Then she was gone, wheeling her suitcases to her car and driving away from 8 years of marriage.